Yeah, I'm letting him in just a second. For some reason, the streaming was taking a moment to start up. All right, we've got one that's stuck in the waiting room on their way in, but it should be safe for you guys to start the meeting.
Okay,
Okay, I'd like to call to order this Board of Finance public hearing dated November 4th on the Candlewood Lake Road water line. I'd like to open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
United States of
and to the
America,
republic for which
to
it
the
stands,
republic which
one
it
nation,
stands,
under
one
God,
nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and
justice
justice for all.
for all.
All right, at this time, I'd like to turn this public hearing over to our first selectman, Mr. Dunn, to take it from here.
thank you, Glenn. What we thought we would do is Greg Dembowski, who's been the project manager on this, will give us an overview. And Dan, can you share my screen?
Yep, 1 second.
Can you give me that capability? I should have asked you earlier.
Yep, you should have access now.
Okay, let me see if I can. Can you see it?
Not yet. When you hit the share button on the bottom, it should ask you which screen to share off.
Let me hold on 1 second. Which one is the share? More controls. I've not done this before.
Should be a green square.
Wait a minute, let me go back down. Sorry. Okay, share screen. And I want to share. I can't see it. Let me try this. Okay. Now can you see it?
Once you've clicked on it, there should be an OK button or something near the bottom right of that list of things to share.
I don't see an OK button. Okay, let me go back to. Sorry about this. I'm not an expert on this. Yeah, I don't see it. I see screens, I see whiteboard, but I don't see my. Dan, can I send this to you?
Yes, not a problem.
Let
Or
you-
was it attached to the agenda already?
No.
All right.
Just stay with me. I apologize. It's coming. All right, tell me when you get it, Dan. I'm just going to get that to come up. So what we'll do is we'll ask Greg to go over the history of the project and what we've done, where it's going to go, and just give an overview of what's included in the project.
Perfect.
Then I'll give it an overview of the assessments and the costs.
Okay,
Did you get it, Dan?
it sums up.
Okay, I can see that. Would you like me to get started?
Sure, yeah, go ahead. I see it now.
All right, Dan, if you can shrink that a little bit so they can see the whole timeline, please. Thank you. So as of today, I'd just like to give you just a brief history of the timeline of this project and talk about the project scope. And on the second page, just I'll show you the map. This will be very brief. So if you would, just give me a minute or two. So back in June of 2017, a Candlewood Lake Road resident called the Brookfield Department of Public Health, saying that they had a bad taste of the water in their private well and corrosion of some of their copper plumbing. Subsequent test results showed high sodium and chloride levels at 93 Candlewood Lake Road. Now, during this same time, actually back to 2004, all the way through to 2019, the Huckleberry Hill School also was doing testing of their water, and they showed progressively higher levels of both sodium and chlorides. That was over that, rather long period of time of 15 years or so. There was another test done in August of 2017, and then in July of 2019, 12 additional properties were tested. And those properties were between the addresses of 68 to 103 Candlewood Lake Road. 7 of those 12 properties showed elevated levels. And when I say elevated levels, I mean levels above the maximum threshold that is required or stated by the Department of Public Health. And those 7 properties were between the addresses of 68 to 99 Candlewood Lake Road. In March of 2019, Dr. Sullivan, probably before that, became aware of a drinking water state revolving fund that allowed us to apply for and submit to the Department of Public Health for a low interest rate loan with 25% forgiveness. And then over the next couple of months, we worked to the Department of Public Health to confirm our eligibility. That's when I started getting involved with the project. In August of 2019, I was fully engaged, and I was working with the utility companies to both define the scope and the options available to address those contaminated homes. I apologize for the typo on that line. I met with Aquarian Water. I met with Eversource Gas Company and started working with the new school project about these options and the issues and the challenges and et cetera. In December of 2019, we hired Wright Pierce to complete the PER, Preliminary Engineering Report. I tried to do that report in the couple of months prior, but I will tell you my report was rejected. It was not up to the standards that they required. The PER report has very specific requirements. And when that report was done by Wright Pierce, it ended up being a report that was just under 100 pages long, something like 80 or 90 pages long, very comprehensive. In March of 2020, after 4 months of work, that PER was submitted to the Department of Public Health. In April of 2020, they responded with some questions. They didn't approve it at that time. They had a lot of questions, and they really pushed back hard on us. We also, with the help of Marcia and the Controller's Department, submitted our financial assistance application, Part 1, for that loan, assuming this project was moving forward. In June of 2020, we were under a good feeling that we just needed to get this thing moving, and we sent out an RFQ public notice that posted the engineering design services for that project. At that same month, we received comments from the DEEP on our PER, and we were very happy to see that they had no major objections to our application. 2 or 3 minor things that we're addressing with them. In July of 2020, we submitted the revised PER. It was approved by the Department of Public Health. We were assigned a project number. And at that same month, we also determined after a couple of meetings that CCA was the lowest qualified bidder to do the engineering design work for this job once we decided to move forward, and we awarded that contract to them. So that's the past couple of years of what we've been doing. Project scope, if I'll take any questions before I move forward. Any questions?
Steve, we can open this to the public now, right? Because this is a public
if you-
hearing.
Yeah, if you want to, sure. I think that's a good idea.
I would like to open it to the public. If you do speak, please state your name and your address for our records. If you have a question at any time, please address it to Greg or Steve, and we'll work through this. Okay, no questions at this time.
Okay, so just a couple of quick points on project scope. This project, after much consideration and actually driving down to Bridgewater to meet with the Quarry and engineers and their staff, and many meetings since then, it was decided, and it's in the PER, that the most cost-effective route to satisfy this issue of these wells that are high in sodium and chlorides is to tie into the main, which terminates at Nabby Road at the entrance into Town Brook Commons Apartments. If you go out there on the road, you'll see a water cover, and that's the end of the main, where that main goes through those apartments and provides potable water to those residents. That main would run on Nabby Road east to Candlewood Lake Road, and then turn north into the northbound lane and terminate at 99 Candlewood Lake Road. The reason we suggest 99 Candlewood Lake Road is that is the northernmost property that has reported high sodium and chloride levels. That happens to be right across the street from the driveway at the Huckleberry Hill School. And that's very fortuitous because obviously we would take water, or the school will take water into their, either the existing school or, or the new school down the road. Now, if you look at a map, which we'll do in a minute, there are 30 properties that have frontage along that route that I just described. The reason we're going in the northbound lane is to provide appropriate separation from the sewer line, which runs along the southbound lane near the shoulder. Now, the other complication factor with this project, maybe it's really an opportunity, is the school project is going to be paying for and also running a natural gas line up Candlewood Lake Road for the new school. That line will go between the water line and the sewer line, probably near the center line of Huckleberry Hills, or of Candlewood Lake Road. So it's our intention to coordinate the construction of those two lines to minimize traffic disruption and cost to get those lines installed. So before I go to the next page, are there any questions on project scope?
Yeah, hello, this is Art DePoy, 93 Kennewood Lake Road.
Hey, Art, go ahead.
Yeah, how you doing, Steve? A lot of questions. I was told a while ago, the pipe that goes from Federal Road up the hill to near the market was too small to provide the water all the way up the road to the school. They've since deemed that pipe is big enough?
Yes, Craig, it's a 12-inch main, right?
Correct.
And we have been able to work with the DPH to get, and DWSRF, to get the water up to the school at a level that the school can use. Obviously, it's uphill. To ensure that each of the residents has good enough pressure, the plan calls for hooking up to the water line and also putting a booster pump in each house. So you'll have between 40 and 60 pounds of pressure.
With an individual pump inside my basement?
Yes.
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 At an estimated cost of about $1,500 per home is what we've been told to put in our budget.
Well, before we get to money, I guess that's later. The other thing about the actual engineering, when they put in that sewer line in the early 90s, we bought this house in 87. Our backyard became a complete flood. It's still, I installed my own curtain drain in the mid 90s, but I still have a lot of water that comes under Kennewood Lake Road into my backyard. And talking to engineers in the past, it was because the gravel trench that holds that sewer line became a curtain drain. And it changed the flow of the water off the hard pan about 5 feet down in the ground. Now, when they run this new water line on our side of the road, we are on the east side of kind of like road, the northbound lane.
Yeah.
How do they design it such that they're not going to move water around, to different parts of the land where it's not already? Do you know what I mean?
I will tell you that we will be required to design it to Aquarian standards. Now, I can't sit here now and tell you exactly what those standards are. Is it going to be gravel or is it going to be sand? Honestly, I think it's sand, but we have no choice but to design it to Aquarian standards because they're going to be the ones that take the line over.
Okay.
So when we go to design this, we will discuss that with the designers and have them address that issue. I don't know, we can't do anything about what happened with the sewer line.
No,
But we'll certainly look at that with this.
How deep, do you know how deep it is? How deep in the ground it goes?
Yeah, well, I can tell you the water line goes deeper than the gas line. So there's a separation issue and an elevation difference. And off the top of my head, I can't remember the depth of the water line. I just know it's going to be deeper than the gas line. I think the gas line, if I recall, and please don't hold me to this, is something like 18 or 24 inches. And the water line is something like 36 or 42 inches. But again, don't hold me to that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. For the frost line, you got to go below like 30 inches. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's at least that, but we can check that.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, hi.
My name is Willie Johnson, and I live at 78 Candlewood Lake Road. So I would be at as I'm listening at this conversation here. Okay, I have the sewer line running down the front of my place now, and so you're talking about putting a gas line in the middle and then the water line on the far side, right?
No, the water line will go on the east side of the road, and the gas line will go pretty much in the same trench, but above it.
Above it. Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry. I thought Greg said the gas line was going up the middle of the road.
That's what I'm thinking. I heard earlier.
So there's been a lot of discussion with the gas company and the water company, and I don't think it's going to be right above it for maintenance reasons. I think there's going to be an offset of a couple feet.
Yeah.
So the gas line may not be in the center of the road. It may be towards the middle of that northbound lane. I don't think it's going to be right on top.
I think you're right, Craig. I'm sorry. You are right. So I think it would be fair to say for right now that it will be in the eastern third of the road. Because there are rules on separation, how far they have to be apart, and also maintenance if they have to go in and do work.
So I should not be concerned with pitch problems with either coming across or below the sewer line going across with this water then, should I?
No, you shouldn't. And we also will have plans to, most likely we'll repave the entire road.
Okay, pavement is fine. Okay, I'm just more concerned with stuff that's happening underneath there. That would be my concern there. And given the fact that I'm on the downhill side, I'm thinking that I'm on the little bit the lower end there, closer to the Nabby Road piece there. I guess.
Right. I think it's safe to say you wouldn't get any more water off the road than you get right now, because we do pitch them slightly.
Okay, I know usually I get quite a bit that's coming off of the road and going to my driveway, and I put a catch basin over in the back that helps me going over into the wetlands there a little bit. I'm trying to direct it there.
Okay, that's a good idea. Okay.
No, that's a fact. That's what I'm having to deal with in order to try and chase this water away.
Right.
There is no plan, and we've been working with Ralph Tedesco on this project. There is no plan to change the elevation of the road in any way.
Right.
Now, I will tell you that we have not even surveyed this property or this roadway. We're assuming there's no ledge and there's going to be no conflicts of any other underground utilities. Until we get into the design, we can't guarantee that. But everything we know says that the roadway will be at the same elevation, the same width and the same contour that it currently has. But I can't guarantee that sitting here today because we've not done one stitch of work on the detailed design for this project.
Okay.
But it's safe to say that's the goal, right, Greg?
Yes.
Hmm.
Do you have any other questions or concerns?
Grass and stuff.
No, not this year.
Does anybody else like to make a comment or a question right now?
We do have
I
one
just have one other question, and I maybe it is too late for this piece here, but in terms of given the fact that I am at 78, never was aware of this salty water.
I'm sorry, we're losing you. Can you get closer to the phone?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. This may my question is, and I know it's maybe not for this session, but given the fact that I'm at 78 and you had determined that the saltiness of the water ran from, I gather, I'm hearing 68 up through that piece, would it be too late to have you guys to test my water as well now?
No, we could test your water.
Great. What do I need to do to get you guys to do that?
Just call my office, 203-775-7301, Steve Dunn, and
Okay.
I'll arrange for that to be done.
Okay then, Steve. Thank you.
And we'll do that for anyone who wants to be tested.
Okay.
In fact, we'll send a letter out offering again to test water.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Hello,
Greg, oh, go ahead.
hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm wondering, where's this water coming from? Because in Danbury,
Name and address, please.
oh, I'm sorry, Florence DeFigueredo, 91 Candlewood.
Thank
Where's
you.
this? You're welcome. Where's this water coming from? 'Cause in Danbury, there's a reservoir. There's no such reservoir in Brookfield. Are we getting it from Candlewood Lake or in the
No.
ground?
No, Aquarian has wells and storage tanks above Federal Road on the west side of Federal Road at the north end near where, Greg, what's the closest place to that? Meadowbrook Manor?
And that's not
No.
contaminated by salt? That won't become contaminated later on in the future?
No, they haven't had a problem. Remember, Aquarian is regulated by the state and they are required to offer clean, potable water to all of their clients.
And also the gas line, would that in the future contaminate the water? Because there's been a lot of problems with gas line in the past with different cities. I don't like gas. You can
No,
blow it, blow things
That's
up.
fine. This is a natural gas line. So if
Yeah,
any
we
gas,
have that
if
at the end too. It doesn't mean anything to me. It could go on your property and blow up stuff. So I don't like natural gas.
well, it can blow up, but it's an extremely rare event. And it cannot contaminate the water because the gas can't get through the line.
How about radon in water? Because our water has radon. Does the aquarium that supplies water does that have radon?
It's tested and whatever the limits are, I don't know what the limits are, but they're very highly regulated. So I would think the chances are, because in the valley, there is some naturally occurring stone, I forget the name of it, Doc Sullivan knows it, that does emit radon.
Like radon.
And they do test for it all the time. And there are properties that do have radon in their water.
Right.
You could have it right now and not know it.
I do. Oh, I know. I don't drink hot
Okay.
water. We don't have any sodium. I'm okay with the sodium level. The
Mhm.
radon, I take care of it, but not drinking it. Everything else is fine. So I probably wouldn't go with this project. Because
Yeah.
like I said, our water doesn't have a lot of sodium. And we
Yeah.
never got notice about the gas line either. Could the house be attached to the gas line? Or that's one for the school?
It's up
Yeah,
to,
this-
it's up to you, both for
Yeah.
gas and water. It's up to the resident if they want to tie into either the gas line or the water line. But I will tell you, Steve, if I can mention this, if it's
Go ahead.
okay.
Yep.
That there is a Department of Public Works, I'll call it a standard, that because we're opening up the road and causing so much disruption and cost to open up the road and run this line, we'll be contacting every property owner, all 30 of these, and give them the option to tie into the main during construction of the main. But if you choose not to, we prefer and strongly will require or request that you not tie in at least 2 years afterwards, because we will have just paved a brand new road. So we really want people to think about this and make their decision while we've got the road opened up. Because as you can imagine, for these 30 properties, there's about 15 on each side of the road. So not only are we running a main up the road, we literally can have 15 connections going to every property all the way up on both sides. So that's a lot of cost and a lot of disruption for a lot of people. And we really would like to do it while we're under construction, you know, when we get started.
Right, and you mentioned cost. Why is a lot of the cost on the homeowners? That's a big amount, almost $1,000 a year. That's a
Yeah,
20,000 for 20 years. I won't be around for 20 years, I'm sorry
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah, hopefully you are. We try to do it as fairly as possible, and I'll get into the actual costs in the
Okay.
second part of the presentation. But it does typically add value to people's properties. You can argue how much, but people do like to have city water, as it were, and city gas.
Let me stop you one moment. I live in Danbury, we have city water, and it's not the greatest thing. One time the pipe broke down, we had brown water, and we didn't have water for weeks. So city water is not a great experience, and just want people to know that. I'm living in the city.
For
that's
some
my
people,
concern.
that's
I-
for
I
some
had
people,
better-
that's
I had
true.
better with well water. I had better luck with well water than city water.
Yeah.
Even with
Pipes
rain.
do break. Pipes do break. Your well could break. You know, you could get you could get contaminants in your well, or your well line could break going to your house, and you would also get muddy water. So
I know, but that's something we'll deal with. I don't have to have the city and the government come in and tell me
Yeah.
what to do. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like
That's
the fact, and I don't like the fact either that I'm paying for other people who has problem. I do not understand why the city doesn't pay for the person who has the actual problem. Why should we all have to pay the person who has the problem? I don't see that being fair.
So let's talk about that when we get into the second part of the presentation.
Thank
That's
you.
Okay,
okay with you,
thank
Felicia?
you. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Does anybody else have a comment or concern or question? Okay.
Before we go to the next page, I just want to add one comment. Aquarian Water just ran another water main on Vale Road. And what they're doing and what their strategy is, and you can see it in their 5-year plan, they're trying to create redundancy and connect these mains throughout their network so they have backup. So the water that we're going to be receiving is going to come from an Aquarian network that is getting interconnected, not just throughout Brookfield, but through Bethel, Danbury, and beyond. And if you see a picture of the grid of where they are, what they're putting in, and where they're headed, there's a lot of redundancy and backup, just like electricity. I don't mean to be facetious, but there is interconnection, and there are, it's a grid system. So, you know, they know the need for reliability and adequate pressure and quality, and it's something I think they address, but I'll just make that point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, this is Art DePoy again. Is that diagram available?
Actually, it's not on the public domain because they don't like, they're concerned about security and anybody hacking into their system and maybe causing some disruption. It is available. If you talk to them, they can show it to you, but it's not in the it's not on their website, for example.
Okay, thank you.
Art, if you stop in the office, I can show you a copy. I have one that's probably 6 or 8 months old, and you can call Aquarian and they can probably share with you even something more current.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the next page is real simple. It's just a map. So if we shrink that down so you can see the whole map on this page, this is no surprise to anybody. You can see Candlewood Lake Road. You can see the existing school. You can see Nabby Road on the bottom where I have that dot and circle. That's the tie-in point. And those are the apartments I talked about on Nabby. So the line will run east and then north, and then we'll terminate right where I have that dot. People have asked me, why don't you run the line further north? Why don't you go all the way up or a couple more addresses? And the reason I stopped it there, and believe me, I can be overturned on this, is the grant or the loan we're getting is only paying to address current quality problems, not future problems, or just to give someone the convenience of water. So our 25% forgiveness and our low interest rate loan only covers remediating current problems. Now, I will also say that the grant specifically does not allow us to run a main to a new school because that's not a current problem. But the existing Huckleberry School has had an increasing level of higher sodium and chloride readings for many years. Even though they're not failing, they're getting up there near the high end of the range. So that's the reason why we're stopping this project at 99 Candlewood Lake Road. So that's the end of my presentation. We'll take any more questions.
Art DeCoy again. I just would add, it seems pretty obvious to me that the chlorides are from the parking lot at the school and the hill, the road. So where you're stopping it is uphill enough that it wasn't getting the wash of the chlorides that we're getting down here. I mean, the data from the wells show that.
Yeah, so I don't know the source of the chlorides. I mean, that's a valid point, but I got to tell you, I've not seen any studies that specifically, and Steve, you can override me on this, that specifically say where the source of the chlorides are coming from.
Oh, I spent a lot of time with the state DEP enumerating all the sources of chlorides that are possible. Like, we bought this house in '87, our water was pristine. Okay, we started having this problem, like you pointed out, 2017, maybe a little before that. Sources of the chlorides are water softeners installed incorrectly. You live near the ocean. Neither one of those is the case. Road salt. And it's not just Brookfield. All over New England, people were switching to the high concentrated chlorides that dispense in a liquid form onto the surface. We have pictures of the driveway up there. Literally looks like icing on a cake. It is so white with salt.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have looked at this, and Art, I'm not disagreeing with you, but it's very, very hard to prove where a chloride came from. We may believe it came from the school or from salting the roads, but we don't have incontrovertible proof. So what we're trying to do is, regardless of source, to address this problem and fix it permanently so that you get good potable water, your pipes are fine, and this problem goes away for everyone on this section of the road.
Good evening. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, it's Rachel Edwards at 99 Candlewood Lake Road. How are you?
Good. How are you today? Do you have a question or concern?
I'm good. I am. Well, my only question is, because I am directly across the street from Huckleberry, so I will enjoy all of the demolition that happens for however long that takes. So my question was, how long will all of this take?
Greg, how long is the building project for the water line? About 4 months?
3 to 4 months. And again, it's really important just for traffic disruption to do it while the gas line's going in. The way this is going to work is they will install X number of feet per day, and at the end of the day, they'll fill it and put a temporary patch in, and the next day move up the line. So it's not like the whole road is going to be opened up for 4 months. And there will be a Brookfield officer, this is required for traffic control, at least one, maybe two, for traffic control, because that northbound lane will be closed down during construction, during the day, right?
Right. And for the school itself, the construction is estimated to start right at the end of the school year and go for about 14 months.
Okay.
So you'll have 1 year of a lot of construction traffic.
That's fine. I'll lock my dog up.
Are there any other questions or concerns?
Steve, I got one from text chat on here. It says, how do you know the current problem if additional properties have not been tested?
How do we know? I'm sorry, read the question again.
Oh, hold on a second. I'll unmute the person who sent it. If you could ask that out loud, just so we don't miss anything.
Hi,
Terry?
my name is Terry. Yes, thank you. I'm just wondering how you
So
know.
Terry, we need your last name and address, please.
My last name is Pepin, and I am considering a property at 112.
Okay,
So my question is, how do you know the current problem if additional properties have not yet been tested?
we have tested some of the properties above 99. I don't have the details of those, but if you give us a call tomorrow, we can tell you. And that's one of the reasons we stopped at 99. We did not see the problem above that. I would suggest anyone buying a piece of property, test the water for both chloride, salt, and radon, and all the normal tests you do for water. I think you would do
Yeah, I
that.
did that, and the property there is extremely high in radon.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. I can tell you
So
that Aquarian has asked us if we could set aside a section of the Huckleberry Hill School property for a future pump station, because their future plans include bringing water all the way up, I believe, to Candlewood Shores, the Mist Hill, Deer Run area where we have a high concentration of houses. And we don't have any reports of bad water up there now, but they are planning for the future. So they would, at some point, run a water line past your house that you're considering.
And thank you for that. And so the cost on that, is that going to be another forgiveness ratio in there, or we don't know that yet?
No, probably not. This fund that we're getting the loan from and the 25% forgiveness is for lines where there are current problems that need to be fixed. If it's just a regular water line, I don't think it will qualify. Greg, you agree?
Yes, there's got to be, that's correct. If we're just putting it for just to supply water because then there's no contamination issues, I don't think we would qualify for this forgiveness loan.
Yeah, I don't either.
So radon does not qualify in that category.
I don't know. We haven't discussed radon with them. Greg, you haven't had any discussions on radon, have you?
I have not.
Yeah, we can ask.
Okay.
We can
Okay,
ask. We'll ask.
Okay, because otherwise then the full burden of the cost would be on the homeowner
Yeah, it would be.
over
That's
20
correct.
years.
Yep, over 20 years. Right.
Okay, thank you for that. And then my other question would be, would there be any issues of eminent domain?
No, I don't think so, because we're doing all of this work within the town's right of way. And then where you get into eminent domain was where we would be taking property, and we're not taking any property here. And I don't think any future water line would take any properties. We've already talked to Aquarian about making sure that there's a piece of property on the town site that they could put a pump station, but that wouldn't affect anyone else at this point in time.
Thank you for that. And so right now, what is the town's allotment for that?
Allotment, what do you mean by allotment?
As far as what they can use of the road or off the road of a
Off the
property?
road, on the school property. They want something like a 30 by 30 space to put a pump station.
Okay, and then just as far as the water line, a water line, what would that be as close as far as the road or where the road meets a person's property?
Well, we put it under the road, so it wouldn't
Okay.
affect your property.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anybody else have a question or concern? No? Okay. Dan, can you put up the presentation that I just sent you, the second one?
Yep, not a problem. Just one second.
Thank you. And some of what I'm going to present now is a little bit of a repetition of what Greg did, but I think it's worthwhile to understand exactly where we are and where we want to go and what the costs would be. Okay, so that's it. Can you go to the second page? Okay, so right now, 5 of the 12 properties that we have tested have levels of chlorides and sodium over the allowable limits. We have to say that there were houses that we requested that we tested and they chose not to have tests. The Huckleberry Hill School, as Greg had said earlier, their levels have been rising over the past few years. That is concerning, because if we don't put a water line in, we're going to have to dig 2 wells on the school property. Again, I said not all houses were tested, and we'll go back out and ask people if they want to be tested. And the schools, we have to make a choice. We either have to put wells in or join this water line. Houses with levels over the limits, and this is important, and those houses that are close to the limits can be included in the project financing, and that's for the tie-in from the line to your house. So we're assuming that everyone who wants to hook up would qualify. So it's about $8,000 to do a hookup from the street to your house. That includes the line, the meter box, the booster pump, the connection to your water system, so that you have good potable water. We would not be able to include that 8,000 in a house that does not have problems that the state says are not eligible. But we would assume that virtually all the properties that will connect, choose to connect now, will do that. And as we said earlier, the project hasn't been approved by the state, but they've given us and approved a 2% loan and a 25% forgiveness of the construction costs, which are the vast majority of the costs. Can we go to the next page, Dan? So assessments per year, if we didn't have the school contribution, the 25% forgiveness, and a 2% loan, the cost for doing this project would be between $2,197 and $10,537 per year. That would be over 20 years. That seemed just not acceptable. It's just too much. And that's why we're trying to get all of these factors to join in to help us lower the cost. The current plan, which we're going to show you now, properties would pay between $388 and $2,700 per year for 20 years.
Wow.
Right? The town's
Wow.
assessment, I'm sorry, do you have a comment, Terry?
Sorry.
That's all right. The town, under the current plan, the assessment for the school property would be $38,000 per year. Can we move to the next page? Okay, this may be a little hard to see, but can we make that any bigger? Is that possible? And anyone who would like this, so each property, the way we have an ordinance, and the ordinance says that we take the overall area of your property, the frontage on the road, the number of dwelling units on the property, and the assessed value, and then we take those as the factors. And you can see to the right here, area factor, frontage. So can you scooch a little to the right now, Dan? So we take all those four factors and determine what percentage of the assessment belongs to your property. And you can see the percentage of the cost is 2.8%, 4.52. And the full water line assessment, this is what the total cost would be over, that's what your assessment would be for the project. And then the blue boxes are what each property would pay per year for 30 years. Oh, I'm sorry, for 20 years. And this assumes this page assumes absolutely no help whatsoever, and a loan at what the town normally estimates at about 4% instead of the 2%. And if anybody wants this, we can send this out to you. In fact, you know what we'll do? We'll put it on the town website if people want to see this, because I think you're going to want to look at your individual properties.
Absolutely.
Right. So Dan, can you move to the next page? Okay, can you go all the way to the left and blow it up a little bit? So this assumes we get the 2% loan, the 25% forgiveness, the school's putting in $322,000 of the total cost, and 1/3 of the houses, 10 houses, being eligible to hook up and be part of the program. I won't go through the detail here because it's so small. I don't think you'll be able to see it, but we'll put it on the town website first thing tomorrow morning. But if you look over to the right, the estimated total payments per year with interest, you can see it's gone down significantly, between 60 and 65% on average. So a lot of houses will be paying $600, $700, $600, $300 per year. Okay, Dan, can we move to the next page? And then can we just center that? Okay, the total cost of this project is at a maximum of $1,939,000. That includes forgiveness from the state of 400. That's a total cost. The net cost after we take out the state's contribution of the 25%, 451,000, and the school's contribution of 322,000. The net cost of the project then goes down to 1,166,000. And that's assuming, again, if all houses, all 30 houses qualified and joined the hookup. Dan, can we move next page? So,
Steve, can I ask a question on that, or? we wanna
sure,
wait?
sure, go ahead.
What you're talking about for us was $816 a year over 20 years. That includes the cost of the hookup
Yes. Yes, includes the cost of the hookup.
and the
If
pump
you
in the
qualify.
basement? And the pump in the basement?
It includes the cost, Art, to put the line to your house, put the meter box in, put it into your house, install a booster pump, and connect it to your water system in the house.
Do you know what the cost of the actual water will be?
Greg, do you remember what the average cost would be from Aquarian?
Yes, I did I talked to Aquarian. You can actually go to the Aquarian website and it tells you all the costs based on usage in an average household of a 4-bedroom home. And I will tell you, if you put in a 1-inch line and you have 2.7 residents in your home and you consume an average amount of water per day, the monthly bill, including tax, will be something around $60 a month. Now, if you would like to see that calculation and how I came to that number, I've detailed out that very thoroughly, and we can send that to you as well. Or you can go to the Aquarian website and look up all those factors on your own. It's up to you.
Okay, yeah, no, I'd love to, if you could send me what you already have, I could do both.
Okay, we'll send, anybody who wants this information.
I'd like to get a copy. This is Willie Johnson at 78. I'd like to get a copy of that as well.
Okay, can you guys just tomorrow call my office and give me your email addresses and we'll get it out to you tomorrow.
Fair enough, Steve.
Okay, so here are the factors. It's important to understand that the DEP has approved our plan to bring the water line up. The Department of Public Health has endorsed it. The school contribution will be 17% of the cost. And again, the loan forgiveness is 23% of the total cost of the line because they don't pay for design and development, but it goes towards the, as I said earlier, the construction costs are literally 90-some-odd% of the total cost. We've reviewed the assessment sheet that you saw with all the factors. The town attorneys approved it. The tax collector and the tax assessor have reviewed and approved it and agree that it meets the requirements of the ordinance that Brookfield has. Can we move to the next page? Dan? Okay.
It looks like that's actually your last
Oh,
page,
that's
Steve.
okay. I'm sorry. I thought there was the one that said questions. So does anybody have any questions or concerns on this?
Yes, this is Art DePoy again.
Go
So
ahead.
the dollar figures we're seeing here are just for water, not for gas?
Yes, they're just for water. And I don't know. Greg, do you know what it would cost to hook into the gas line?
I have not been involved in the gas line. That's really a school project. But I will tell you that the gas company has requested that when they run that line, the cost will be dramatically less if people sign up for gas and sign a contract before the gas line construction starts. So I really encourage anybody interested in getting gas to their home, stay tuned to the school project, and when they plan to start the bidding and construction for that gas line, get involved early. It will save you money.
Good point. Good
Yeah,
point.
follow-up question. When you guys ran the city sewer line up here, we hooked to it because our backyard was completely flooded. It ruined our leaching fields. And we pay a flat fee every 3 months.
Right,
And that was because they have no way of knowing how much sewage we're putting in. When you live in a
Right.
city with both, they tie the amount of consumption of water to your fee for the sewer.
hmm
Are these going to remain completely independent?
yes, they are, Art. They're gonna be completely independent. And WPCA, which runs the sewer lines, has no current capability or desire. You're right, a lot of cities, what they do, they base your sewer charges based on the amount of water coming into your house, because they can measure that and understand it. But the WPCA has no way to do that, nor do they have any plans to do that. So they just take an average cost, and they know on average what a 3-bedroom house, how much sewage they create, and then they create their fees based on that and spread it amongst all of their users.
Mhm.
But there's no connection between the two at all. It's a good question.
Hi, it's Rachel Edwards again
Yes.
at 99 Candlewood Lake Road. I had a quick question. I heard another gentleman say that he was given a quote of 800 something a year. I had a quote of slightly higher. I'm just curious as to the variation.
800 a year for what? I'm sorry.
For just the water connection.
The 800 a year. No, this would work out. We're estimating the average cost per house to be $8,000 for the hookup. So that would be about $400 per year over 20 years. Is that right? Yeah.
Right.
Plus
But
a
it's
little
not
bit.
going to
'cause my-
99, Steve, is it?
I'm sorry?
It's not going to 99 Candlewood, is it?
No, it's not going to 99.
Right.
I thought they said 93.
No, I'm
No,
90.
I'm at 99. I'm at 99,
99.
but
Yeah.
the paper I received mentioned about 1,100 a year. So I was just curious as to the variation.
I don't know where you received that piece of paper.
Steve, it's based on frontage, it's based on your total frontage, so you're.
Yeah, I know, but we didn't send any notification to 99 Candlewood Lake Road because they're not part of the
Right.
project.
It's not part of the scope of the project.
It goes all the way up to 100 on your screen right
Yes,
now.
it is. Yes.
Oh, it is?
Oh, I'm
goes
sorry, I
to
thought it was 93. Okay.
I
But
apologize.
Steve, I just
Rachel
want
Edwards, right?
yeah,
there.
Oh, no, I know what you're talking about. I sent you a letter inviting you to this meeting and told you what your assessment fee would be for the 20 years. Right?
Correct. So I was
So
just
that
curious
would be
as to the variation.
1,100.
right, 'cause she has
Right,
more-
and I just heard another gentleman say over the 20 years, his would be 800 plus a year. So I was just curious as to the variation between the two quotes.
Yeah, they're not quotes, they're just assessments, and they're based on your area, your frontage, whether you have a house on the building, and the value of the property.
So I'm that gentleman, by the way, Rachel.
Okay.
I just want to clarify one thing here. What's this 4,000? I see one number on the sheet that you mailed us. It's 816.58 per year for 20 years. That includes hookup. What's this other 4,000 you mentioned? Is that part of this?
The 4,000,
You just
I'm
mentioned
sorry,
about $4,000.
I still don't understand the question, Art.
Okay. All right. You said, you mentioned, I'm sorry, maybe $400 a month or you mentioned some assessment fee that sounded like it was different from this number.
No, we were talking about, okay, so the cost to do the hookup from the street to your house is, we're estimating $8,000 per house, right? And that would be $400 divided by 10 is 800, would be $400 per year, right? But if Art, you would qualify to have your house hooked up underneath this program. So that 8,000 now becomes a $6,000 assessment because you get the 25% forgiveness. I think that's where the confusion was.
Okay, but this $800 a year for 20 years covers that cost.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So this is the turnkey cost to have it delivered into your house.
When would this
If you-
start?
So I guess my question is the value of his home versus my home, my estimate came in a little higher. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, well, there's 4 factors, and we'll put this on the town website. If you can tomorrow send me your email, I'll send you these actual sheets but there's 4 factors. And if your house is worth more, then your assessment goes up. If you have more acreage, your assessment will go up. If you have less frontage than anyone else, your assessment will go down.
I totally have more acreage. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Steve, can I add a comment?
Sure.
We have put a lot of effort into these numbers and calculating the cost for this project, but these are just estimates. We've not gone out to bid yet. The price of asphalt a year from now could be very different than what we assumed. So these are estimates. We also have contingency in these numbers, and we're trying to cover for things like ledge and other unexpected costs and whatever else may come up. So I just want to caution you that these are estimates. The best we've been able to do. I've talked to Dave Tinker. I've talked to Aquarian Water. I've talked to Rusta Grazia. I've talked to our Department of Public Health on all these factors that go into this. And this is just an estimate as best we can do as we sit here today.
Now, I think it's also important to say that we did not lowball this number now, because we believe it is possible we'll hit ledge. It is possible we'll hit other problems. If everything goes very, very well and the price of steel doesn't change and the price of, macadam asphalt doesn't change, it could be lower. But to Greg's point, it could also be higher. These are just estimates.
Geraldine Ferris at 80 Candlewood Lake Road. I have a quick question.
Sure, go ahead.
If you hit ledge in front of my house, as they did when they put the sewer line in, does that mean that my estimate is going to go up?
No, it would be spread across the entire project. So that additional cost would be spread by all the properties being assessed.
Thank you.
So unless you want to pay for that.
No, I don't. They put a crack in our foundation when they blasted for the sewer line. So no, thank you.
Okay. Okay, does anyone else have any questions or concerns? I'd like to also say that if anybody wants to call me individually to discuss this in greater detail, I'm more than willing to do that. And, my office number is 7301. So just call and then we'll move forward. I would like to say one more thing, though. This sheet that's up right now shows what the assessments would be per house. The Board of Selectmen, because we do want to bring water to the school, has decided that the town portion will absorb 60% of the cost of this project. And that also lowers the cost to each of the individual homeowners directly affected by this water line. Okay, any other questions, concerns, issues?
Steve, if I could just make a comment.
Sure.
We need to make if somebody was on this call from the school project, they would tell you there's a need to make a decision on this versus them designing and putting in wells. So whatever it takes to make a decision either way, we've been talking about this for 4 or 5 months. We need to make a decision from the school project's perspective.
Yeah, they're under the gun here because they want to go out to bid early January. I believe that's it, right, Greg?
I'm not exactly sure. I just know that we can't put a water line in the ground during the coldest of the winter. Right. We need to get this thing designed and installed before next winter. So we gotta get moving either way with this.
Right. It's a good point to bring up. Okay. Glenn, I return the meeting to you.
Thank you. All right. So just so we understand how we're moving forward, our next meeting is next Wednesday. So any of the information would need to get to you by Tuesday from the public.
Yeah.
Looking at the attendance of the meeting, it looks like we've had about 8 people outside of town officials and staff members that have attended this meeting. So we only got a small sample of the 30 homes. We only have 8, a couple of them are couples. We've only got 7 homes that have brought their concerns before we
Right.
start spending money. I understand the town isn't gonna be spending money, but I think the public, and correct me if I'm wrong, needs to understand when that line goes by their home, whether they use it or not, they will have to pay the assessment. Whether they're taking water or not, they have to pay that assessment.
Correct. Glenn, we should
So-
also mention that if the Board of Finance moves this forward from an appropriation standpoint, that the Board of Selectmen will have to have another formal hearing for the residents and those affected.
Correct.
Yeah, I think Florippi's, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. did I-
hi. Can you repeat that last statement? You said we would still have to pay the assessment if we get the
Yes.
water line connected or not?
Whether you decide to hook up to the water line or not, every
Uh-huh.
property will get assessed for the installation of the water line.
So you mean we still have to pay for it if we get the water or not?
Correct.
Okay, because the letter did not state that. The letter said we had the option to hook up.
You
I
have the
was
option to hook
assuming
up.
that we wouldn't be charged for it.
Well, if you hook up, you will be charged an extra fee, yeah, on top of the assessment fee.
So what's the extra fee then you're talking about? So the letter we got, you guys need to send a whole new letter outlining everything what you mean, because the letter is pretty confusing. That the way I understood the letter is you pay the assessment if you decide to get it or not. If you don't get it, you don't pay anything. So we still have to pay no matter what. Is that what you're saying?
No, any water line, sewer line that goes into town, the law states that everyone on that line will be assessed and must pay for the line, whether they decide to hook up to the line or not.
Okay, so the assessments, my assessment is about $900. What would the actual cost be then to get the line hooked up to your home? You said 4,000?
No,
Is that correct?
we
100,
said-
you're throwing a lot of figures out there.
you know, if you qualify, if you have high levels of chlorides and salt, or you're over the allowable levels, the cost of hooking you up will be included in the project. And you would
And how
pay
much
for
is
that,
that?
right? And the estimates that we gave you that you saw include the cost to hook up 10 houses. So we don't know finally how many people are going to want to hook up, and we don't know yet how many would qualify. But it's included in that assessment. What you would pay over and above that would be the fee to Aquarian for the water going forward.
Okay.
I'm glad
Well,
you asked
this
that
sounds
question.
like
I'm
that-
sorry we
this
didn't make
sounds
it
very
clear.
confusing. Yeah, I was assuming that we wouldn't have to pay anything if we didn't go with the water line, because our water is fine. We don't need it, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Okay, okay. So I'm glad you
Okay, so
asked that question. That's important. So, but we would, Glenn, as I said, it's required that with the Board of Selectmen hold a formal hearing to
Right,
discuss.
are you gonna
this
have
again.
like, I'm sorry, are you gonna have like a voting process? Who
Um,
goes for it, doesn't go for it? You can have like people vote for it?
No, it's not, at this point in time, no.
Why not? Because we were never informed of this in the past, so we weren't involved in any type of decision. Now you're telling us we had to fork out $900, $20,000 for 20 years if we wanted to or not.
Mhm. I see your concern. I see your
You know what I'm
concern.
saying?
Yes, oh, absolutely. I see what you're saying.
I mean, how about you can't afford this? What are you gonna do if we don't pay? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're on a limited budget here.
Yeah, that's why we have worked so hard to get the cost of this down to the level it is. Because it is a burden for people, and we're trying to make it as small as possible so that it doesn't affect you, terribly. These sorts of things are never fun, and people don't want to pay assessments, but it's one of those things that we need to work together to ensure that everybody has safe water. And I don't know how else I can describe it.
Well, I'm just a little confused. I'm a little agitated because we were never told about this in the past. All of a sudden, I get this letter saying we're gonna put a water line. Never knew anything about it. Our water is fine, you know?
Yeah, the Board of Selectmen,
Nobody even
Board of
came to us to test our water. We ended up giving our water to a neighbor for him to test it. The salt water was fine. Nobody
Yeah.
came to us, said, let me test your water. And now we're part of the line. So that doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, okay, I understand what you're saying, but I have to say that we've had numerous public conversations at Board of Selectmen meetings on the water line. It's been in the newspaper a few times. I'm sorry if you didn't get any of that.
I don't get the newspaper. I'm retired. I'm a limited budget, so
Right,
this
right.
really
I
concerns me.
understand that. I understand that. And that's why we wanted to, that's why we sent all the people on this, you know, anyone in Brookville can join this meeting and give us their comments. But we specifically sent letters to everybody who would be directly affected because we wanted you to be aware of this in case you didn't know it before. And we will be having another hearing if they move this forward.
Floripes, if I could address this, Glenn Rooney here.
If I just ask one thing, how would payment be collected? First of all, would it be through like a
We would
tax?
send you a bill. We would send you a bill.
And what happens if we don't pay? We refuse to pay to this point. We can do so in jail.
Yeah, what would happen is the same thing that happens if you didn't pay your property taxes. You know, it goes for a certain amount of time, and then we do collection, and then, but we don't like to do this, we would put a lien on the house if somebody hadn't paid their assessment.
Okay, I just wonder.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Glenn, you wanted to?
Yeah, Floripes, Glenn Rooney here. This is the reason why we had this public hearing for the Board of Finance. We've had a lot of meetings on this as well, and we are the ones ultimately that'll give the approval for this to go forward right now to the Board of Selectmen so they can make a move on it. And this is part of the struggles that we are having, and we want to hear from the homeowners. Now, we understand the other issues on the other side from the people with the wells that have issues, but we wanted to hear from all sides. Because I think, and I'll speak for my board and they can all chime in, is we've been struggling with this for these reasons. We're trying to find a good solution for everybody. And we're trying to work with the Board of Selectmen. So that was the purpose of this meeting tonight. As you've heard, we also have a timeline of the school project that we need to make a decision on, which also benefits this project if we make the decision in time for them to move forward. If they do the wells on their own, as Steve has said, that money that they were putting into this water line project, and Steve, you could correct me if we're wrong, would go into the wells, and we would lose that $300,000 or plus that we're putting towards this project.
Correct.
So this is the reason why we had this public hearing, to hear people's concerns, to let you ask questions as you did. We are going to have our meeting next Wednesday, so you're all aware, and we will probably be making a decision based on the timelines next Wednesday. Eileen, you want to say something? Because you usually bring things better to a point than I do.
No, I mean, I think it's what you said. I mean, we were given the task to approve this or not, to send it back to the Board of Selectmen. And we really needed to hear from those of you who are directly impacted. And, you know, it's a decision we don't want to make without hearing from all of you. So I'm glad that those of you who could come tonight did participate in this meeting, and we could get your feedback. I hope maybe in the coming, in the next week, maybe Steve will hear from other neighbors. So please, if you can, you know, ask them to share their opinion, whether it's a letter to the Board of Finance or a call to Town Hall or whatever. But it would be great to get a little more feedback, knowing the number of houses that are impacted.
May I just ask one last quick question? Because now I'm really confused. This is Geraldine Ferris at 80 Candlewood Lake Road.
Sure.
I was under the impression that the water line was for the school. Is that correct?
The school, jeez, sorry, I'm muted.
No, you're not.
No.
You're good, Steve.
There we go, sorry. No, if this is not specifically for the school, it's a happy coincidence that we want to get a water line to the school and we want to fix those wells and bring potable water to the residents along Candlewood Lake Road. So it's worked out as a positive, I think. We in effect are killing two birds with one stone, but the schools had originally planned to put wells in.
Okay, so And you mentioned that if you qualified by your well being contaminated, no one had asked us to test our well. I have no idea. As far as I know, my well is not contaminated. So I would not qualify to even hook into this water line if my well is fine.
No, you can still hook in. We just couldn't make the cost of the hookup part of the project. You would have to pay it separately.
Oh,
Does
my
that make sense?
goodness.
You wouldn't get the 25% reduction in your
Right.
cost, Steve. The
Right,
cost is still there. It's a 25% reduction if you qualified,
right.
correct?
It doesn't qualify. She don't get it.
So if I don't qualify, then that cost is going to, the cost that I'm gonna pay per year will go up.
But you
If-
also said you
no,
haven't been tested
no.
yet.
No one, I had no idea that I was supposed to be tested. I'm at 80 Candlewood Lake Road. I had no idea. No
So
one's
what we can
approached us
do,
or said anything.
We'll send out a letter to each of the property owners offering again to test. I'm sorry if you didn't get a request. And we'll send it out and we'll test anyone who wants to. And remember, it's not just having over the allowable limit. If you're close to it, you would also qualify, and we would roll the cost of the hookup into the actual water line.
Steve, can you clarify? Please, Steve, this is Glenn again. Please clarify, though, that this isn't for radon, uranium, or anything. This is strictly for salt. So if the water comes back with high radon, it does not count into this project.
Correct.
Ooh,
It's just the high.
Well, I don't know, Glenn. We'd have to check that. If somebody had high radon in their water,
right.
they might.
But how are
qualify.
you? I think you need to, I think you need to discuss this with Mr. Beecher before we say anything more in
Yeah,
public.
we'll check.
Okay,
that.
Steve,
Yeah.
Steve, Willie Johnson here
Yes, Willie.
at 78. Okay, you're telling me, if I understood you correctly, you're saying from the school down to 68, okay, you've already established that there was, that the parties within that range are acceptable to your program, correct?
We'd have to confirm that, but we had, I think, 5 of the 12 houses we tested were over the allowable limit, and we'd have to check and see how many were close to the allowable limits. So what I'd
Okay, well,
like to do-
I'm thinking, I was just trying to understand if we could go with the range. You're saying from up by the school down to 68, okay, you've had issues there. So I'm thinking things would, the houses that fall within that would be perhaps impacted by that, my assumption in error.
They might be. What we would like to do in a best case scenario is test every single house. And then we can
Okay.
clearly tell everyone, okay, yeah, we can roll the cost of the hookup into the project or we can't.
The second question that I have is this assessed value piece. Is that something that could be also tied into, I guess, the regular real estate, or just parties getting tied into your tax, the tax bill that we get then?
No, we typically send out a separate bill for this because of the way the system works. But I'll check that. I don't think we can include it in your regular tax bill, but I'll check that.
Okay.
So, excuse me, this is Terry. I know that I'm not inside the 99. I'm outside of that at this time. But, going forward, I know I spoke with someone in the office there and they said there is a potential for this line to extend beyond 99. And at that point, that means there's actually an increase of at least 25% by that time, possibly. There's no benefit. And that's going to be at a higher cost. That's a concern.
Yeah, it could be. We can't, Greg and I can't speak to what Aquarian would do in the future and the town and the request. So yeah, that's an unknown right now, Terry, but it's a good point.
Well, the thing is, because as you talked about the 4 factors, I didn't hear the 4th one, but the first 3 would be all of those at the property that I'm looking at. So it's a 25% increase along with then add those 3 higher factors, not knowing the 4th one.
It's acreage, number of dwelling units, frontage on the road, and assessed value.
Yeah, okay, well, that clarifies things for me. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best.
Okay,
If
thank
I
you.
can add a comment about extending the main up Candlewood Lake Road, there are other options. It doesn't have to come from Nabby Road. I will tell you, going up Candlewood Lake Road requires a booster pump. It's very expensive because you have to have backup propane and fuel source to get the pressure and get the water up the hill. It may be more cost effective for the main to come across Huckleberry Hill or down Rocky Road from Federal Road. So I don't want you to go from this meeting thinking that it's a no-brainer, that it'll just be 25% more to extend that line up Candlewood Lake Road. It may take a different route and the costs are going to be different. It may be more or less than 25%.
Thank you.
Art DePoy again, 93. I know there's or at least I was told, an aquarium water line on Nature's Lane, just east of here down Rocky Road. Did anyone ever look into running the water that way?
We
We
did.
looked at it a couple ways. Greg, you want to go over that?
We did. We looked at every possible route, even coming down from New Milford. We looked at coming across Huckleberry Hill Road from the YMCA where the main terminates. Yes, we looked at every one of those. And what Aquarian does is they take the demand for what we're putting in and they put it in a model because they have to supply pressure and volume. And they determine the most cost-effective way to do that. And this is the solution they came to.
And you mentioned a minute ago, if they had to put their own booster pumps to get the water up the hill, this would be an external device, but the power would be backed up by propane?
Well, it depends. If there's a natural gas line going to a school, natural gas is more effective than putting in a propane storage tank.
Okay.
So, that's got to be designed and decided at the time they decide to extend the main.
Right. The question that pops up in my head is if we're here and we lose power, so our booster pump that you're saying is going to be in our basement will not be in function, what would our pressure be? Would it be usable?
So what's going to happen, Art, when you decide before the project starts to go under contract with Aquarian, they're going to require you sign I think it's called a will serve letter, and they're going to guarantee a certain pressure and volume to you. And you're going to find that pressure that is on this main is going to be between 20 and 25 PSI. That's not adequate to service a home like, a typical home. So that's the reason for the booster pump. So if you do lose electricity, let's say, the main will still have 20 to 25 PSI pressure.
Right. Which is
And also Aquarian, if an entire area loses power, like we've seen here in Brookfield, Aquarian has a very high priority with Eversource to get their pumps up and running again.
Okay. Then I'm going to go back around to some Board of Finance members. Brianna, you have anything you want to add?
I want to thank all the residents for coming and taking their time out of their nights to be here. It's exactly why we wanted to do this, is because we wanted to hear from all of you. And I've been taking notes, and everything that you guys have brought up is great. I think where I'm leaving off right now is I feel that there seems to be in the group we have here, an overwhelming amount of people that didn't know about getting the water tested, didn't know if they qualified, don't know if the levels of water are near, above, non-existent. So I guess for me, it would be important that we have that information and that we feel as though as many of the affected numbers are aware and the levels to help make a better informed decision. Everybody's brought up great points, and I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Ricky, you want to add?
Just that I want to really encourage everybody who is on the Candlewood line to write it in to the Board of Finance, to our email, and let us know in writing how you feel, have your neighbors write it. I think the more correspondence that we have in the coming week will also help us figure out kind of the best course of action to take. Because for us, and the reason for this public hearing, it wasn't just about whether or not we needed to get the water line to the schools. It was, how does it affect the residents along the way that have to pay a substantial amount for it, knowing that there are affected wells that need it, and then others that may not. Just write in, let us know your thoughts so that we can properly assess it and come up to the best decision possible as a board.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Ricky 100%. So important.
Steve, you want to make a closing statement here before we adjourn?
I want to thank everybody who's on. I know that this has come as a surprise. So we're going to send a letter out to every resident tomorrow, informing them again of what is the water line is. We'll put all this information up on the website, and we'll again make an offer to test anyone's water who wants it. If you can, if you know you want your water tested tonight or tomorrow, just call my office and we'll arrange it to do it quickly. And I thank you all for being on here. It's a very good discussion and really good questions.
So Steve, if you get water, when would you have results back? Will we have results back by our next week's meeting?
No, probably not, because we have to arrange for someone to go out and collect the sample or get it to the testing lab, and it's usually a week to 10 days is a standard.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
I mean, it comes down to how many people want to have their water tested, because if it's only 1 or 2 people, it rolls into the contingency anyway, basically, if they get approved. And
yeah,
right, Greg, I mean, would you agree with that too, Greg?
Yes.
So we could make a decision if only 2 people decided to have their water tested.
Right.
If it's 10 or 15 people, we have to consider doing something different, correct? Would you agree, Steve, or not agree?
No, I wouldn't agree. We've already tested 12 houses, and 5 of them have come up with high over the limit levels, and a couple more are close. So the more we can test, the better.
Okay. All right. Leave open to the public one last chance before we adjourn tonight.
I just wanted to say one thing. Steve, can you let everyone know how they are supposed to get a water sample or what they do if they're interested?
We'll send a letter out tomorrow to everybody and with the details, and we'll send the details out in the letter so they know exactly what to do and how to do it.
Thank you, Steve.
And we'll pay for that.
Thank you. Felipe, go ahead. You raised your hand. Fire in. Felipe.
You're muted, Felipe.
Okay. Hi, what time is the meeting next week? Is it 7 also?
Yes. Yep.
Do you hear me?
7.
It is at 7.
Okay, I want to make sure I get the right time. Okay, great, thank you.
Felipe, just so you know, our general meetings are structured a little different since we have a lot to cover during the meeting. So generally, we have public comment at the beginning. We limit the public comment to 3 minutes per public comment, and we do not interact with the public comment. Our meetings do not allow us to, you ask questions. This was why we had this public hearing tonight, so we could have a more informal discussion back and forth. At our structured meetings, you will be allowed to speak at the beginning of the meeting. We have a public comment. We will then go into our meeting. We'll have discussions as a board. We will allow public comment after the second part of the meeting as well before we adjourn, but it will not be interactive. So I don't want you to, be ready. I want you to join our meeting, definitely, but I don't want you to think that we're going to be able to have a meeting like this that was a little bit more informal. We have a structured meeting that we have to follow by bylaws and everything else, that we will be more structured. So I just want you to not feel like we're not listening, because we had this meeting tonight, because we are listening. So Steve, I mean, would you agree that they?
Absolutely, 100%.
Water?
So I think with that note, we're ready to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
So do we have to go through the formal process? Do I need a second?
Yeah.
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks,
You
guys.
too. Thank you.
Bye.